The autumn wind whistled in the crowns of old lime trees, rustling yellowed leaves, as if whispering forgotten stories. Outside the gates of Belyov's huge estate, an old, shabby gazelle stopped. A woman in a faded coat stepped out of it, tired, with reddened hands and holding a thin girl of about 12 by the palm. The girl's name was Lika. She looked pale, but her eyes, large and clear, shone with a quiet force, as if they reflected the sun, hidden from all others. The guard at the gate frowned, approaching them suspiciously. "Where are you going?" "Travel only by passes." The woman took out a crumpled piece of paper and showed it with a trembling hand. "We told Mr. Belyov that he needed a nurse for his son. I am a nurse. And this is my daughter. I can't leave her alone." The guard looked at the girl incredulously, then, sighing, contacted the walkie-talkies with internal service. After a few minutes, the massive gate slowly parted, letting the gazelle inside. The road led to the house through an alley, where the trees stood in rows like frozen witnesses of some grief. Belyov's house itself was huge, but cold, austere architecture, high windows, like eyes looking with distrust at the world. Pavel Belyov, the owner of the estate, is a billionaire known in business circles for his steel in his voice and impeccable reputation. Since his son went blind, he had hardly appeared in public. They said that he tried the best doctors, foreign professionals, spiritual healers, but Artyom remained in the dark. An accident on the highway 2 years ago took away his eyesight, and with him faith in life. When Lika and her mother entered the house, they were met by the housekeeper, a dry woman with an icy look. "You will be escorted to the north wing. Just don't make any noise, the young master doesn't like loud noises," she said, and the voice echoed off the marble walls. In the room where they were brought, there was a heavy silence. The air smelled of medicines, dust and something metallic, as if from old equipment. On the bed sat a boy, 16 years old, tall, with a pale face. His eyes were open, but not seeing. They seemed almost transparent, like glass. "Another nurse?" he asked coldly, without turning his head. "How many of you will there be?" "Everyone comes, looks at me and leaves. As if I were an exhibit." "I didn't come to watch," Lika replied calmly. "I came to help." The boy snorted, grinned at the corner of his lips. "Help? You're probably not the first. But no one could. Maybe because they just didn't listen to you," she said quietly and sat down next to you. He shuddered. None of the adults allowed themselves to sit next to him so easily. Usually it was treated with caution, like a glass statuette, ready to break. And this girl spoke without pity, without fear. Since then, Lika has come every day. At first, she just sat next to him, then she began to read books to him, old, forgotten, with tattered pages. Her voice was light but deep. She brought the smell of herbs that she collected on the way from the village, mint, St. John's wort, lavender. "It smells like the sun," she said one day, bringing a fresh twig to his face. "I don't remember the smell of the sun," he replied quietly. "I forgot what the morning looks like." Sometimes she was just silent, sitting by the window and watching the shadows of the trees fall on the floor. Then she whispered, "You know, Artyom, your eyes are alive. They are just tired of looking at pain. They need a little rest." He laughed, but then his smile melted. "You're weird," he said. "No one told me that. Everyone assures me that I need to put up with it. And you don't seem to believe that I'm forever blind." "And I don't believe it," she replied simply. Vision is not only with the eyes. In the evenings, she told him stories about a girl who could see the stars through the clouds, about a boy who heard the light. Every day he waited for her more and more. He even began to recognize her steps, light, almost inaudible, but with a special rhythm, as if she had brought a piece of warmth with herself. One rainy evening, when the sky was heavy and thunder roared somewhere far away, Lika entered the room all wet. In her hands, she held a small pendant on a thin chain. "What is this?" asked Artyom, feeling the cold metal with his fingers. "From grandmother," Lika answered. "She said that in him. The light is stored, the real one, which will not go out even if the sun disappears." He grinned. "You understand that light is just physics." "No, Artyom," she said softly. "This is what lives inside." Then they were silent for a long time. The girl was sitting next to her and suddenly said quietly, "Can I try something?" The girl took out of her pocket an old but clean handkerchief, with an embroidered silver thread around the edge. Gently touched it. Faces, then eyelids. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. In the next second, Artyom was pierced by a sharp pain, as if something had broken inside. A light flashed in his eyes, wild, dazzling as lightning. He screamed, fell to his knees, clutching his head in his hands. "Lika, what have you done?" he wheezed. "I removed what was blocking your vision," she said quietly, and there was no fear in her voice. The pain lasted for an eternity, then suddenly went away. The world was filled with a soft glow. He slowly opened his eyes and saw. A girl stood in front of him. Her hair glistened with rain, her eyes sparkled as if the sun was really reflected in them. She smiled just kindly. "You, I see you," he whispered, not believing himself. Artyom did not understand how this was possible. Not a single doctor could. To restore her sight, but this girl, simple, poor, with a pendant and a light in her eyes, did the impossible. He got up, took a step towards her, hardly breathing, afraid that the vision would disappear. "How?" he asked. "What did you do to me?" Lika just shook her head. "Sometimes you need to get out of your eyes not what is sick, but what is someone else's. You've just carried darkness in you for too long, Artyom." He did not understand, but she felt right, because together with the light in the smell of rain and the rustle of leaves burst into the room. And for the first time in 2 years, Artyom felt that he was alive. And somewhere deep inside, among the blank walls and old shadows, something quietly changed. Not only in it, but also in the house. Belyov, who for the first time in a long time seemed to exhale. When Artyom woke up for the first time after that night, where the light flashed out of the darkness, he did not dare to open his eyes for a long time. It seemed unreal, as if someone had played a cruel joke on him. But a ray of sunlight filtered through the curtain softly touched his face, and the fear receded. He opened his eyes and saw no darkness. A cloudy gray fog, which I got used to for 2 years. And the clear outlines of the room, the golden morning, the books on the table. An old lamp and a face. She stood at the window quietly, as always, as if she was afraid to wake up the morning itself. Her blonde hair shone as if raindrops were hidden in it, and her eyes shone clear, deep, not at all childish. "You. Do you really see?" she asked quietly, as if she did not believe her own words. "I see," he whispered, and life trembled in the word. "You, all of you." She smiled and looked down. So it worked. A scream came from below. The housekeeper ran in, saw that Artyom was standing at the window, without a stick, without an escort, and almost lost the power of speech. "Lord, young master, you see, there is a commotion in the house." A few minutes later, Pavel Belyov came running, breathing heavily, like a man who could not believe his own eyes. He stopped on the threshold, tall, gray-haired, in a strict suit, but with a face on which despair froze, melting in hope. "Artyom." His voice was trembling. "Son, are you really?" Artyom turned. Their eyes met. "Yes, Dad, I see." And for the first time in 2 years, Pavel hugged his son. Tears flowed down his cheeks, mingling with his rare laughter, muffled, happy, real. But amidst the general rejoicing, only Lika stood aside, clutching her pendant in her palms. There was no joy in her eyes. Only quiet fatigue, as if she knew that miracles do not happen without price. After 2 days, the house was filled with doctors. Best specialists from Moscow and Europe came to check on the boy, who was unexpectedly healed. They took pictures, measured, shined flashlights, whispered among themselves. "It is impossible," repeated Professor Lerman, the famous ophthalmologist. "The optic nerve was destroyed. This does not happen." "But a fact is a fact," Pavel Belyov said calmly, in whose voice there was again the confidence of a man accustomed to controlling reality. "You were all wrong." Artyom only listened silently, looking at Lika, who was standing against the wall, without interfering. When her father approached her, he asked, "Girl, what have you done?" "I'm willing to pay any price." "Just tell me how." She shook her head. "I didn't do anything, Mr. Belyov. She just took away what was bothering him." "What was stopping him?" He frowned. "Infection, nervous tension." "What are you talking about?" "No," she replied softly. "Darkness. It is not always outside, sometimes it lives inside." The billionaire grunted, not out of anger, but out of confusion. The girl spoke with some ancient confidence, as if she knew something that neither scientists nor philosophers knew. In the evening, when the doctors left, Artyom went out into the garden. The sky was clear, and for the first time in 2 years, he saw the stars. They seemed alive, as if they were moving, blinking, breathing. Lika was sitting on a bench under old Lipa. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" she said without turning around. "I'm glad you can see them again." He sat down next to him. "Lika, I keep thinking about what you did then. What did you get out of my eyes?" She thought for a moment. "You don't remember that evening to the end, do you?" "I remember the flash. Pain. It wasn't light, Artyom," she said. "This was the way out. What you saw when the pain was gone was your own vision, which you yourself once closed." He frowned. "I didn't close anything. It was an accident." "Perhaps," she nodded quietly. "But not everything that seems to be an accident. Case. Sometimes a person loses their sight because they don't want to see something scary." "What exactly did I not want to see?" he asked in a whisper. She looked straight into his eyes. "The death of your mother." He shuddered, as if her words pierced the air. "How do you know?" "I saw. There's pain in your eyes there." It held the darkness. He stood up abruptly, stepped back. His heart was pounding. "This is crazy. You couldn't." But Lika did not argue. She just stood up and touched his arm. "Sometimes the soul tells more than the person. I just helped you hear it." He wanted to say something else, but at that moment his father appeared on the porch. "Artyom, come here. Reporters are already at the gate to find out how it happened." "Let them wait," Artyom said firmly. "I don't want to be written about as a miracle." Pavel looked at his son in bewilderment, then turned his gaze to Lika. "And you, girl, can stay. I want you to live here. We will provide you with everything, education, future, money." Lika smiled quietly. "Thank you, but I have to go." "Where to?" Artyom was surprised. "Stay at least for a few days." "No," she said. "My place is where people don't see yet." And she walked away along the path, where the shadow of the lanterns fell on the wet cobblestones. Her silhouette melted in the fog until it disappeared completely. Several weeks passed. Artyom has fully recovered. The newspapers wrote headlines about the miracle of healing, and he himself tried to avoid talking about that evening. Doctors offered interviews. Journalists called day and night, but he was silent. Sometimes at night he dreamed of Lika with a pendant in her hand, with eyes full of light. He woke up and looked out the window for a long time, expecting to see her in the alley. But there was none. One day he could not stand it anymore and went to the village from which she came. The road was dusty, the houses were dilapidated, as if time had treated them without pity. On the outskirts, he met an old woman who was knitting at the gate. "Aren't you looking for the girl Lika, son?" she asked, as if she knew in advance why he had come. "Yes, she worked for us. She helped me." He stammered, not knowing how to explain where she was. The old woman looked at him with a long, attentive look. "She has been gone for a long time. 3 years have passed away." "A what?" Artyom did not believe it. "No, you are mistaken. She's alive. She came to me." "Maybe she did," the old woman said calmly. "Only Lika and my mother were hit by a car 2 years ago on the same highway where they say you got into an accident." The world shook. The air became dense. Sticky, as if someone had taken the oxygen out of it. "But she was at my home. I saw her, talked to her." "Maybe you did," said the old woman, crossing herself. "She was kind. Maybe she didn't leave all of them." Artyom came out of there silently, with empty eyes. In his hands, he was still clutching the pendant that he had found under his pillow the morning after she disappeared. On the thin chain sparkled a tiny silver thread, embroidered in the same way as on that handkerchief on that stormy night. He raised his eyes to the sky. The wind touched the leaves. For a moment, it seemed to him that her figure flashed among the sun's rays, light, transparent, like a ray of light. "Thank you," he whispered. Now he knew that it is not only with the eyes that can see, and that sometimes miracles come not to stay, but to remind. The light was always inside. That Belyov's house was never gloomy again. The windows are always open, the curtains are drawn, and in the evenings there was a lively laughter, real laughter, like the breath of new life.